Tenders for Henry. I'm not happy, complained Gordon. Your firebox is out of order, said James. No wonder, after all that coal you had yesterday. Hard work brings good appetite, snapped Gordon. You wouldn't understand. I know, put in Duck brightly. It's boiler ache. I warned you about that standpipe on the other railway, but you drank gallons. It's not boiler ache, protested Gordon. Of course it is, said Henry. That water's bad. It furs up your tubes. Your boiler must be full of sludge. Have a good wash-out. Then you'll feel a different engine. Don't be vulgar, said Gordon huffily. Gordon backed down on his train, hissing mournfully. Cheer up, Gordon, said the Fat Controller. I can't, sir. The others say I've got boiler ache, but I haven't, sir. I keep thinking about the dreadful state of the world, sir. Is it true, sir, what the diesels say? What do they say? They boast that they've abolished steam, sir. Yes, Gordon, it is true. What, sir? All my Doncaster brothers drawn the same time as me? All gone, except one. The guard's whistle blew, and Gordon puffed sadly away. Poor old Gordon, said the Fat Controller. If only we could. Yes, I'll ask his owner at once. He hurried away. Arrangements took time, but one evening Gordon's driver ran back excited. Wake up, Gordon! The Fat Controller's given you a surprise. Look! Gordon could hardly believe it. Backing towards him were two massive green tenders, and their engine shape was very like his own. It's Flying Scotsman, he gasped. The Fat Controller's brought him to see me. Oh, thank you, sir. Gordon's toot of joy was drowned by Flying Scotsman's as he drew happily alongside. Next day the two engines were photographed side by side. You've changed a lot, smiled Flying Scotsman. I had a rebuild at Crewe. They didn't do a proper Doncaster job, of course, but it serves. I had a rebuild, too, and looked hideous. But my owner said I was an extra special engine and made them give me back my proper shape. Is that why you have two tenders, being special? No, you'd hardly believe it, Gordon, but over there there's hardly any coal and water. But surely every proper railway... Exactly. You are lucky, Gordon, to have a controller who knows how to run railways. Everyone got on well with Flying Scotsman, except Henry. Henry was jealous. Tenders are marks of distinction, he complained. Everybody knows that. Why has he got two? He's famous, explained Duck and Donald. He was the second to go 100 miles an hour. Besides, the other railway has no coal and water. Whew, sniffed Henry. I can't believe that. I never boast, he continued, but I always work hard enough for two. I deserve another tender for that. Duck whispered something to Donald. Henry, asked Duck innocently, would you like my tenders? Yours? Exclaimed Henry. What have you got to do with tenders? All right, said Duck. The deal's off. Would you like 'em, Donald? I wouldn't deprive you of the honour. It is a great honour, said Duck thoughtfully, but I'm only a tank engine, so I don't really understand tenders. Perhaps James might... sorry I was rude, said Henry hastily. How many tenders have you, and when could I have them? 6, and you can have them this evening. 6 lovely tenders, chortled Henry. What a splendid sight I'll be. That will show the others the sort of engine I am. Henry was excited. Do you think it'll be all right? He asked for the umpteenth time. Of course, said Duck. Just go where I told you, and they'll be ready. Meanwhile, word had gone round, and the others waited where they could get a good view. Henry was cheered to the echo when he came, but he wasn't a splendid sight. He had 6 tenders, true, but they were very old and very dirty. All were filled with boiler sludge. Had a good wash out, Henry? called a voice. That's right. You feel a different engine now. Henry wasn't sure, but he thought the voice was Gordon's. Super Rescue. The two diesels surveyed the shed. It's time, 7101, said one, that we took this railway over. Shush, 199. It's their railway, after all. Not for long, persisted 199. Our controller says steam engines spoil our image. Of course we do, snapped Duck. We show what frauds you are. Call yourselves engines? If anything happens, you care nothing for your train. You just moan for a fitter. We bring it home, if only on one cylinder. Nothing, boasted 199, ever happens to us. We are reliable. Vulgar noises greeted this. How rude, said 199. You asked for it, growled 7101. Now shut up. Next day, Henry was rolling home tender first. I'm a failed engine, he mourned. Lost my regulator. Driver says it jammed wide open, and it can't mend it till I'm cool. However, he went on, I've got steam, and driver can use my reverser, but it would happen after Duck fooled me with those tenders. Now they'll laugh at me again. He reached a signal box and stopped, whistling for a road. Opposite the box, on the up line, stood Diesel 199 with a train of oil tankers. Worse and worse, thought Henry. Now old Reliable will laugh at me too. The signalman came out. For pity's sake, take this spam can away. It's failed. The Limited is behind. And all he does is wail for his fitter. Spam can, fumed 199. Stow it, snapped the signalman, or I'll take my tin opener to you. Now then. 199 subsided at this dreadful threat, and Henry pulled the train out of the way. The diesel didn't help. He just sulked. The Limited rushed by with a growl and a roar. Henry gave a chuckle. Look, Spam Can, he said. There's your little pal. The diesel said nothing. He hoped 7101 hadn't noticed. 7101 hadn't noticed. He had troubles of his own. He was cross with his coaches. They seemed to be getting heavier. He roared at them, but it did no good. Engines have a pump called an ejector, which draws air out of the train's brake pipes to keep the brakes off. If it fails, air leaks in and the brakes come on, gently at first, then harder and harder. 7101's ejector had failed. The brakes were already leaking on while he passed Henry. He struggled on for half a mile before being brought to a stand, growling furiously, unable to move a wheel. Well, well, well. Did you hear what Signalman said? I thought they'd be laughing at me, chuckled Henry. Now the joke's on them. Moving two dead diesels and their trains, said his driver thoughtfully. That's no joke for a failed engine. Do you think you can do it? I'll have a good try, said Henry with spirit. Anyway, 7101's better than old Spam Can. He did try and shut him up last night. Come on, then, said his driver. We mustn't keep the passengers waiting. Get moving, you! Henry puffed the sulky diesel into motion and started to the rescue. Henry gently buffered up to the express. While the two drivers talked, his fireman joined his front brake pipe to the coaches. It's better than we thought, Henry, said his driver. The diesel can pull if we keep the brakes off. So the only weight we'll have is Spam Can's goods. Oh, said Henry. That's a mercy. He was, by now, feeling rather puffed. Poop, 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 poop. Are you ready? Tooted 7101. Peep, 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 peep. Yes, I am, whistled Henry. So with 7101 growling in front, and Henry gamely puffing in the middle, the long cavalcade set out for the next big station. Donald and Flying Scotsman were waiting. They cheered as Henry puffed past. He braked the coaches thankfully. Span-Can and the tankers trailed far behind. The passengers buzzed out like angry bees, but the Fat Controller told them about Henry, so they forgot to be cross and thanked Henry instead. They called him an enterprising engine and took his photograph. They were thrilled, too, when Flying Scotsman backed down on their train. If the guard hadn't tactfully shooed them to their coaches, the train would have started later than ever. Donald took the goods. "Return 199 to the other railway," ordered the Fat Controller. "I will write my views later." Henry and 7101 went away together. "I'm sorry about last night," ventured the Diesel. "That's all right. You did shut old Reliable up." "And," said the Diesel ruefully, "made a fool of myself today, too." "Rubbish! A failed ejector might happen to anyone. I'd lost my regulator." "You? Failed?" exclaimed the Diesel. "And yet—" His voice trailed away in admiration. "Well," said Henry, "emergency, you know. Trains must get through." 7101 said no more. He had a lot to think about. Escape. Douglas had taken the midnight goods to a station on the other railway. He was shunting, ready for his return journey, when he heard a faint hiss. "That sounds like an engine," he thought. The hiss came again. This time it sounded almost despairing. "Who's there?" he asked. A whisper came. "Are you a Fat Controller's engine?" "Aye, I'm proud of it." "Thank goodness. I'm Oliver. We're escaping to your railway, but we've run out of coal, and I've no more steam." "Is it from scrap you're escaping?" "Yes." "Then it's glad I'll be to help ye. But we maun work fast." Both crews joined in. They took off Oliver's side rods, wrote out transit labels, and chalked scrap everywhere they could. Douglas marshalled Oliver in front of his train. "No time to turn round," he panted. "I maun run tender first." "Yoo-hoo! Yoo-hoo!" yelled a passing Diesel. "A steamer's escaping! Yoo-hoo!" Douglas puffed firmly on. "Take no notice," he counselled. But they were stopped before they could clear the station's throat. The foreman's lamp shone on Oliver. "Ah!" he exclaimed. "A Western engine." His light flickered further back. "A Western auto coach, and goods brake too. You can't take these." "Can we no?" said Douglas's driver. "They're all for us. See for yourself." Douglas's guard showed him the labels and papers. Oliver's crew, hiding in the coach, hardly dared to breathe. "Seems in order," said the foreman grudgingly. "But it's queer." "Sure and it is," began the guard. "But I could tell you queerer." "So could I," interrupted the foreman. "Right away, guard." "A near thing," puffed Douglas with relief. "We've had worse," smiled Oliver. "We ran at night. Friendly signalmen would pass us from box to box when no trains were about. We got on well till Control heard about a mystery train. Then they tried to hunt us down." "What did you do?" "A signalman let us hide on an old quarry branch. Driver, fireman and guard blocked the cutting with rubbish and levered one of the approach rails away. We stayed there for days, with Diesels baying and growling like hounds outside. I was very frightened then." "Small blame to ye," said Douglas feelingly. Presently they rumbled over the bridge and onto the Fat Controller's railway. "We're home! They can't catch you now. Tell Isabel and Toad, please. Douglas called out the news, and heard a joyful ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling. He was surprised. Oliver chuckled. That's Isabel, he said. There's a bell on her, you see. She's clever. When we go out together, I pull one way and push the other. When I pull, I can see ahead. When I push, I can't. So Isabel keeps a good lookout and rings her bell to talk to me. Did you say? Douglas was impressed. About this Toad, he continued. Is he? Who'd you wished, said his driver. Yon's the works. We maun slip in unbeknownst and find a place for Oliver. Douglas tried hard to be quiet, but the night foreman heard them and had to be told their secret. I know just a place, he said, and showed them an empty siding nicely hidden away. Oliver said goodbye and thank you, and Douglas puffed away. Yon's an enterprising engine, he thought. I won away here with Donald, but I'd have been feared to do it on my own. Little Western. Douglas arrived back in time to see Flying Scotsman take his enthusiasts home. The Fat Controller said he had all been honoured, and thanked Flying Scotsman and his owner for their help. Please tell everyone, he went on, that whatever happens elsewhere, steam will still be at work here. We shall be glad to welcome all who want to see and travel behind real engines. This announcement was greeted with cheers, and Flying Scotsman departed to the strains of Will Ye No Come Back Again, led, as one might expect, by Donald and Douglas. At last Douglas could tell his news. They were all excited about it, and agreed that something must be done for Oliver. I'm feared, said Donald, some murdering diesel may creep in, and him there alone, lacking steam even to whistle for help. You're right, said James. He won't be safe till the Fat Controller knows. Douglas should tell him at once, said Gordon firmly. Is it me speak to the Fat Controller? It's forwarded, think me, and maybe interfering. Well, here he is, said a cheerful voice. Now, what's all this about? Duck broke the awkward silence. Beg pardon, sir, but we do need another engine. I agree, Duck. That is why I am giving 7101 another chance. Their faces showed such dismay that the Fat Controller had difficulty with his own. Sir, ventured Gordon at last, we had hoped for a real engine. They, said the Fat Controller gravely, are rare, and unless one escapes, there's little hope. But, sir, burst out Donald, one has. And thanks to Douglas, is now at our works, announced the Fat Controller. Sir, gasped Douglas, is there anything you don't know? More than you think, he laughed. Oliver's crew told me all you did, Douglas. Och, sir, you couldn't see a braw wee engine, and him in trouble, and no do a wheel's turn. More than a wheel's turn, I fancy. Douglas, I'm pleased with you. Oliver, Isabel, and Toad will soon be ours. Oliver and Isabel are just what we need for Duck's branch line. Loud cheers greeted this announcement. And Toad wants to be your brake van, Douglas. Thank you, sir. I'd hoped for that. He and I'll do brawly together. That, of course, made everything right. Henry spoke a good word for 7101, and the others gave him a welcome. He had good manners for a start, so Henry didn't find it hard to teach him our ways. 7101 finds them different from those of the other railway, but much more interesting. He is now quite a useful engine. They teased him at first because of his growls. They said he was like a bear. He still growls, not because he's cross, but because he can't help it. His name, Bear, has stuck. He likes it. It's nicer than just a number, he says. Having a name means that you really belong. The Fat Controller soon had Oliver, Isabel and Toad mended and painted in full Great Western colours. Then he rescued 3 more Western auto coaches. 2, Alice and Mirabelle, he gave to Duck. The 3rd, Dulcie, joined Oliver and Isabel. Duck and Oliver are happy on their branch line. It runs along the coast to the small railway. We reopen branches, they boast. They're very proud of this indeed. The others laughed at first and called their branch the Little Western. Duck and Oliver were delighted, and now no one ever thinks of calling it anything else.